How do you disseminate data, get accepted to conferences, and ultimately publish? Hi, I'm Shivani Mehta, your resident research expert at MedSchoolCoach and author of the book Demystifying Research for Pre-Medical Students. In this video, we're going to talk about data dissemination. Dissemination is the act of taking new discoveries from your research project and conveying the results to diverse audiences such as medical doctors, researchers, patients, and general community members. Each of these groups are extremely different, and the way you communicate your ideas and cater to your audience is an art of its own. Medical schools are looking for students who not only invest time in research, but are able to do something special with the results. The results don't have to be groundbreaking. All that matters is that you finished a project that you started. Dissemination can come in all sorts of settings: lab meetings, conferences, and, of course, publications. First, let's talk about lab meetings. So, during lab meetings, everyone from the research team will gather and present their progress on their projects. Often, a few projects will be highlighted in these meetings through a slide presentation that walks you through the background, methods, and results. Usually the results are not complete, so the point of presenting is to open the floor to discussion. It is a great way to workshop a project and see what's working and what's not working. When you start in a lab, you will be in an audience listening to these presentations. However, as you get more involved in a project, you may be able to do your own presentation. Doing this is a great way to show both your research team and medical school admissions that you're really interested in what you're doing and trying to complete your project and taking on the role of a research leader. By presenting, you will gain confidence to talk about your work in a concise manner and gain the skill set to speak about your project in a compelling way. This will prepare you in the future for research conferences because in lab meetings, the audience is a lot smaller and it's just going to be the people that you've been working with every day. In your medical school application, you can discuss lab meeting presentations in the portion where you explain your research project and the skills you've learned. Highlighting that you presented at these lab meetings will look great to admissions committees. So now, let's talk about research conferences. Conferences are usually a gathering of people from many institutions to present their work and become up to date on research topics that are relevant to their field. For example, someone who is interested in HIV research may attend the annual conference of retroviruses and opportunistic infections every year, while someone who is interested in neuroscience research may attend the annual international conference of brain science and cognitive research. Attending conferences helps you learn current research in your field, network with senior researchers and doctors, and most importantly, present your data. When I attend conferences, I always feel inspired because I connect with researchers working on ideas that I would love to eventually get involved in. I also get ideas of my own for new projects that I can do. This becomes super beneficial as you advance in medicine because the network you make influences the opportunities that you have. Presenting at a research conference is a huge step in your research career. It is one of the ways to officially get recognition in the research community for your work. Medical school applications will ask you to disclose the conferences you presented at because they know a strong researcher typically has presented at a conference. In order to present your work at a conference, you must submit an abstract and have the abstract get accepted. Conferences exist on all scales. There are school-specific ones just for students in that university. There are also regional and international scaled conferences. The larger the conference, the more competitive it will be to get into. Let's go over these different types of conferences in more depth. Your university most likely holds annual institutional conferences to allow students to present their research. They are usually not as competitive and exist as a stepping stone for students like you to get experience writing abstracts, creating posters, and presenting their data. The best part is that it's free to attend. Let's scale up a bit. Regional, national, and international conferences are held to reflect the work of researchers within that particular region. For example, the National CDC Conference on Health Communication exists as a space for people to talk about health communication research in the United States. There are also regional conferences like the ACP, which exists to talk about internal medicine research at the state level. And international conferences like the Union Conference take place each year in a different country to allow researchers from all over the world to share their greatest research findings. Attending a conference like this costs money for travel and entry, so before you apply, ask your mentor if there are funds for you to use. Conferences can vary based on the field. Your research mentor should be a great guide, so don't be afraid to ask them. And you definitely don't want to be in a position where you get in, but you don't have funds to go. So again, make sure you ask before you apply. Now that we've covered conferences, let's talk about publications. Publications are important because they permanently and publicly display your research for anyone to look up online. In medical school, publications are valued for many things, such as your author placement, whether it's first, second, or third, the journal that they are published in, and the number of times they are cited. However, as a pre-med student, your only concern should be participating in the writing process and eventually getting your name somewhere in the author line. Remember that although having a publication is a great way to disseminate your work, many medical schools are aware that getting published at such an early stage in your career is often due to lucky timing, finding a great mentor, and finding a great project. It takes a lot of hard work to publish, but just because you didn't publish does not mean you didn't work hard. That being said, if you are interested, we want to help you get involved in publications at an early stage. The process of publications has various steps and is normally competitive and challenging. Publications are respected for their peer review process, meaning that the paper you turn in is vetted by other experts in the field who will assess the merit of your study. In a typical scenario, you may work on a project for 1 or 2 years, complete data analysis, and craft a compelling story using this data. Your writing should convey the significance of the data you found and how it's related to existing research in the field. You are ultimately trying to convince the reviewer that your data adds something significant to the body of work that already exists. This process is quite challenging because it requires a lot of time, mentorship, and discussion. This is why medical schools don't expect publications at your level. Not everyone has this type of lab and mentor available. However, if you know you want to publish, it doesn't hurt to begin the process from the moment you start your research position. In this video, you learn how to prepare for lab meetings, get accepted to speak at conferences, and what it means to get your material published. Once you do get published, hit me up because I'd love to read what you discovered.